It's shift to abundance. I am open, I am ready. I am wildly available to receive. Let's go. I wake up in the morning and I clear the space. I put a brand new smile right on my face. I don't ask for the how, I just know the why. I'm watching all the limits start to multiply. I drop the heavy weight, I let the struggle fade. I am stepping in the life that I already made. I look up at the sky and I make the call. I am ready for the magic, I am ready for it all. If I am so loved, show me. If I am so worthy, show me. If I am so powerful, show me. Prove it to me now. If I am so loved, show me. If I am so worthy, show me. If I am so powerful, show me. Yeah. Prove it to me now. Universe, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I am dropping the doubt, I am placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. Universe, show me how good it can get. Yeah. Show me how good it can get. I am dropping the doubt, I am placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. Isn't it wonderful how things align? Isn't it crazy how the stars combine? How did I get to be so incredibly free? Why does the absolute best keep happening to me? I don't chase the outcome, I just set the tone. I am sitting right here on my very own throne. The odds are stacked in my favor today. Everything I want is already on the way. If I am so loved, show me. If I am so worthy, show me. If I am so powerful, show me. Prove it to me now. If I am so loved, show me. If I am so worthy, show me. If I am so powerful, show me. Yeah, prove it to me now. Universe, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I am dropping the doubt, I am placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. Universe, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I am dropping the doubt, I am placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. I am open, I am ready, I am wildly available. I am open, I am ready, I am wildly available. I am open, I am ready, I am wildly available.
You guys feel that?
I am open, I am ready, I am wildly available. Universe, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I'm dropping the doubt, I'm placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. Universe, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I'm dropping the doubt, I'm placing the bet. Show me how good it can get. Show me, I am ready to receive. It is done.
Yeah, let's do this, guys. We got a show today. We got a show, folks. Ashton Forbes is going to be joining us shortly. We are discussing weapons in Iran that were used during the conflict. Were there any secret weapons that were used that the media isn't telling us? Perhaps weapons used by the Iranians. We are going to explore that. Last week we had a Red Heifer episode. I don't know if I'm going to do that debate, guys. I kind of feel like y'all don't show, I don't go. So, but I liked doing Parsha with you. So at the end of this, we'll get into Parshat Pinchas, which is this week's Parsha. It's the Parsha of Elijah, the prophet. Big shout out to Elijah, the prophet, Eliyahu Navi Zachor Latov. And I'm playing with the lighting in the studio. We're having a lighter set. I like it. You know, I kind of use the off-tone lights a little bit too much, and I feel like I got to get some new vibes, so new perspective. Lights are set, new tone in the room, and there's just so much new things that's happening. So many new things are happening. I don't know if you guys saw on One America News last week, I appeared on Chanel Rion to talk about Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson platforming Victor Boot. I watched the interview, the Tucker Carlson interview. They tread lightly. There was like 6 or 7 questions in total. Victor basically spoke for about 7 or 8 minutes per question. Tucker sat anxiously waiting. Highly groomed questions. We got a Tucker laugh. We got a Tucker chaos laugh. I posted on it. Ha 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 ha. Now I know why Obama wanted to arrest you. Ha 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 ha. Pretty cool. So, but yeah, before we get started in our show, I want to show you guys some news that took place today that I'm not so thrilled about. I posted it on my timeline. Let me show you guys. Boom. Just in California, Loe Al-Naji, the former Moore Park professor who pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter in the death of Paul Kessler, a Jewish man defending Israel at a pro-Israel counter-protest in Thousand Oaks in November 2023, was sentenced to just probation and 365 days in county jail after the judge rejected the DA's request for real prison time. A disgraceful sentence and a complete failure of justice. He lives near me. Horrifying. This actually happened, folks. A man, I remember the story clearly. It affected everybody. He was in the community. He's a member of our community. Paul Kessler. And he was standing on a sidewalk with a support Israel October 7th type of a thing when everybody was going crazy. This guy right here, this freaking fashazo, this guy walks up to him with his buddy, hits him over the head with a megaphone, and the guy dies. And California has let him walk. Killed in broad daylight in front of tons of people. He got 365 days in probation, in county jail and probation for murder. Let's give it context. There are still people in prison serving multi-year felonies for consumption of marijuana. We're like going full blast on marijuana, and we're giving this guy's going to get in and get out before like some people who are like really like serving ridiculous sentences are free of their sentence. So something is seriously drastically wrong in the California prison system, in the Justice Department. And this is local politics for me, folks. This is serious business, because this guy's going to be back out in the neighborhood. This Lojai Talibani schmuck face is going to be back out into the neighborhood in a year. And I'm like Top J sitting in this neighborhood. But it's okay. Top J strap. Don't fuck around or you'll get clapped. That's all I got to say. With that, I'm going to bring in my next guest. We've had a couple really fantastic guests on the show, but this one making his second appearance on the show, Ashton Forbes, probably one of the coolest guys on the internet because he's really put in all that like conspiracy and science and welding them in kind of like this government revelation type of thing. Necessary step in the process of the unveiling of the Messiah. But Ashton, welcome back to the show. How you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Good. Thanks for having me, Adam. Doing well, man. It's what a world we live in, It's a crazy world. You just brought up like the issue of unequal justice, which is actually one I care about a lot. Is that I don't think our justice system can work unless we treat everybody equally under the law. And when we start making provisions for any reason, honestly, because we think that people are unequal or whatever, then justice stops working. And I think that kind of relates in a tangential way to how I talk about the technology that's being suppressed and how we live in a two-tiered society where we think we're free, but ultimately if we don't know the true reality of the universe, we don't know what kind of technology we're capable of. Are we really free, or are we just kind of living as slaves, living out this mundane life? So let's just start with that.
We are free, but we're not truly free. We just have a perception of freedom that is limited. And this is like when I get into like Jews versus Gentiles type of thing, and I start thinking about like the Torah and like the whole that weird ecosystem, I start thinking about like free will, and I start thinking about like like just how much freedom, like just like freedom of physics, for example, like how to navigate the physics route, like all the entire study of Kabbalah, you know, in Judaism, we're like kind of given this like teaching over, and it just involves so much physics. And I look at like the world around me and I'm like, how are these people even free? You know, when they come up with terms like Goyslop and stuff like that, I'm like, you know, like I envision that Goyslop is the world where we're completely not free because we don't even see how free we can actually become. You know, so I really resonate with that sentient that you're saying, because even in the world of technology, when it comes to health and medicine, like people are suffering, going and getting like archaic 1975 like chemotherapy for cancer when there's like 30 different cures available today for cancer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not really my area of expertise, but I will agree with the main sentiment. Now, can I fix the audio here real quick? Because I haven't used this before, and they're saying the audio's echo
off a little bit. Let me try to do that on my end. Does this help a little bit?
Let me just keep talking, and I can see if it fixes it. Okay, now I can hear the echo there. But I didn't hear the echo when I was... Go ahead.
Do you have an echo when I talk?
I don't, but the people in the chat were saying something's off with the audio. So I changed my microphone setting. Let me just see. I think I've got the right mic here set up. They're saying it's a double. It's on Ashton's side. All I have is... I've never used this setup before.
Which
one?
So
I was trying to see if I can fix it, because it seems like it's pretty bad.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm going to rejoin.
The Fed just installed a kill switch in your bank account. If you have over $100,000 sitting in a traditional IRA, 401...
I can.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, he's going to rejoin. Yeah, I see that. All right, we're going to... How is it now? Question mark.
Let's try again and see if that helps. If not, I can switch my other microphone. I don't know. I don't think it can be picking up my TV monitor, so I'm not sure. Somebody in the chat can no. Maybe I gotta turn it up here. Will that make it better?
How's that now?
Testing 1 2 3. Brown cow 1 2. Is there an echo? Just kidding.
It's good on my end, but I can't hear you on your end. I am seeing that people are saying that there is an echo on your end. No, it's not better. You want to trade out your mic?
Yeah. Try this out.
Oh wait, hold on one. There. Try speaking really quick into the mic.
Yeah, okay. I'm testing. I'm switching it up. I don't know what it is. It seems like it's bad. I don't know. Here we go. Let's try this out. Okay. Let me know if it's fixed or not. If you guys can.
It's okay. This is why I like live streaming and not the news, because you could just like kind of do stuff like this and just incorporate it into the show. You know what I mean?
This sucks. Let me know if it is better now. Okay. Some people are saying that it's good now. So if this works, then I'll just talk into the headphones. No big deal.
Okay.
Apologies for everybody. Okay. That sounds like it's better now.
Ashton's the guy who knows about advanced technology, everybody. So next we're going to do microphones.
Hey, we fixed it in like, I don't know, 2 seconds.
Under a minute.
So you know.
Yeah, my producer's telling me it's better. We're good. Okay, cool. Okay.
I'm going to switch my sound so it goes through my headphones as well real quick.
Yeah, so I was kind of basically saying that, like, you know, we live in like a Goyslop reality. You know, like they only let us know a specific amount of technology that's available to us.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually like that term now. I just learned about it like the last 6 months, the Goy term, the Goyim, the whatever. But that is actually a good representation of what's going on in the world, is that most people are just living their lives blissfully unaware. Like we would actually think of it in terms of like the people that are just scrolling on TikTok, like their whole world is just TikTok. But we actually don't think about what that really does to people's minds. And what it does is it turns that TikTok scrolling into their reality. That's their real world.
Right.
One thing I want to point out is that we don't teach things anymore. You ever watch those videos about physics where guys like cooking the egg on like wood or whatever like that, and it's like teaching you all about electromagnetism?
Absolutely.
We used to have videos like that. Bell Labs.
We used to have basic programming where they would do like science experiments on television. You know, like Mr.
They don't do any of that
now.
Now
neighborhood science experiments.
Yeah, it's nothing now. Now we just have like Neil deGrasse Tyson just dictates what's real or what's not real. And that's what I think more than anything people should take from this conversation is that the issue of this advanced technology existing is not one of we have to figure out this physics. It's not even one where we have to build some machine and prove to people that we have like free energy or we can do fusion. It's actually a psychological issue that is very similar to COVID. I think it's even similar to this weird anti-Semitism that's rising on the internet. It's like a mass formation psychosis. It's almost like a sheet that's been pulled over people's eyes or a virus that infects them. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And I just think like also like in this, like just to keep it on topic of the Iran war that we're in, like I kind of feel like nothing is being given to us that's really what meets the eye. Like everything, all the information that is being given to us is like happening. It's like so watered down. The real situation of why we stopped the war in Iran is not, like there's so many things. I have so many questions. Like what, for instance, everybody started talking about we're going to run out of bombs soon before the war. That was like the big talking point. Like we're going to run out of bombs so we can't go to war with Iran. It'll put us at risk. And I'd hear all these people talk about it. And I'm thinking like, we're the United States. We never run out of bombs. What are you talking about? Like that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And people were LARPing it. And they're like, we dropped 150,000 bombs. And I'm like, so? We just saw you give $350 billion worth of military equipment to Ukraine. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was exactly a good example of a fake narrative. That we were never at risk of running out of bombs. Pete Hegseth actually refuted that, which he shouldn't even have had to. But it's one of those lies that starts to get build legs. But it goes to show that people don't even really think about it. Like you think about the practicality, like you said, you gave a good counter example. How would we be running out of bombs when we're giving weapons to Ukraine? Like that's not an issue at all. In fact, this is why I think it's important to understand technology if you want to understand geopolitics, especially especially related to the war in Iran. What I would have people look at is listen to the aerospace engineers that ran Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. Why did Lockheed Martin Skunk Works exist? It existed because they needed a fast way to come up with new designs with the engineers working hand in hand with the project managers to figure out what the requirements were for their new secret spy planes, etc., and to build it fast, like under 3 months, as opposed to the standard red tape. So they wanted a way to rip through the red tape. Right. And it was vastly successful. And what did it lead to, though? It led to a situation where if you listen to those people that ran that program, they all tell you the same thing. What you see in the public is 20 years behind what we're working on in the Skunk Works. Minimum 20 years.
Yeah.
The planes, the B-2s, all the stuff, they'd already, by the time you see it rolled out, they've already been working on stuff way beyond that.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it from that perspective, you say, well, all this weaponry that we're dropping, this is old tech. This is old stuff. We got to get rid of it anyway. This is actually like in a sick way, this is a good time to get rid of it because we're going to be moving on and upgrading to the better stuff.
Hey, we're having a garage sale.
And honestly, that's why we're giving weapons to Ukraine too. Because what else are we going to do with them? It's great. We give them to Ukraine. Ukraine weakens Russia.
Graveyards.
And what's really happening in Ukraine? I don't want to change the topic too much, but it's just ethnic Russians killing other ethnic Russians. I mean, Putin was able to take back Crimea not because they were much more powerful, but just because those people wanted to fight for Russia. Yeah, like that's why they were able to take Crimea back.
That's why like. I saw just recently Victor Boot went on Tucker Carlson, and I've been watching him like once a month on InfoWars. Like he comes on, he leads Alex's 4th hour. I know exactly who he is, Merchant of Death. I'm like blown away every time they parade him on stage. But I'm watching this and I'm listening to the interview that he's given with Tucker, and he's not wrong about certain things about like Donetsk and Luhansk. Like they wanted to be Russian, they didn't want to be Ukrainian. The millions of people, the million plus people that have died as a result of that singular question is, do they get to be Russian or Ukrainian? And they speak the same language and they eat the same foods and they're descended of the same people, and so on one hand, I understand, the need to be leery of Russian disinformation, but also on the other hand, I understand like the real ambitions of people and what they want for self-determination. So Crimea was like a 95% referendum. So
they wanted to be Russian, and this is the thing. Like, it's people are always so tribal to just believe one side or the other, as opposed to just believing what's the truth and what makes sense. I mean, I personally am not a huge fan of what Tucker has become recently, but his interview with Putin was actually really insightful. I mean, Putin is right. The United States has the best disinformation apparatus on the planet. That's why if you ask a random person, they probably won't know what we just talked about there, which is that those people wanted to be Russian. That's why they flipped over. And we're pretty much just letting Russians kill other Russians and weaken Russia. And all we're doing is giving them some bombs that are obsolete anyway, and tanks and planes and whatever else. So you look at it from our perspective. Exactly. That's what it's all about.
Was basically saying that like Russia's next step is going to be to use conventional nuclear weapons in the battlefield. And I was like, dude, like this is just like Russian propaganda. And I started thinking about like Alexander Dugin and who he controls and Operation SIG. Are you familiar with Operation SIG?
Mm-mm.
It's a Russian.
I'm only learning about Dugin right now. My politics is still behind.
You know, I was one of the, if not the first person to really break the story on Dugin because of all my time at InfoWars. I mean, like he's pretty much like so influential at InfoWars. But
really,
basically, yeah, for a long time. And when they get into Russian disinformation, I get like Russian storytelling and everything like that, and like you know, like the need to like communicate and have open channels and dialogue. But then there's also like this propagandizing element. And Operation SIG, SIG, is a clear. This is like it's so clear. I mean, Operation SIG was like all about like Russians financing anti-Semitism in America. Here, I'll read it to you from Wikipedia.
You don't even have to convince me. I've seen it now. I mean, the rise of that in the last year. Yeah, please do.
Just because everybody's like, what are you talking about, Willis? Okay, Operation SIG, Sionistskaya Gusadarasta, the Zionist government, was a long-term Soviet KGB campaign. Here, let's just pull this up. You know what? Let's go back. Operation SIG was a long-term Soviet KGB disinformation campaign launched in the 1960s, devised to combat U.S. and Israeli influence. The operation utilized propaganda and proxy actors to incite anti-American and anti-Semitic sentiment throughout the Islamic world. Key facets of the operation include strategic goals. The KGB aimed to reframe the Arab-Israeli conflict from a regional issue into a global struggle against Western imperialism, ultimately intended to align Arab nations with Soviet geopolitical interests. The disinformation of hate speech. Soviet intelligence distributed vast amounts of propaganda, including translated Arabic copies of the anti-Semitic fabricated text, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and portrayed Israel as an illegitimate Nazi-like oppressor. An agent deployment. Thousands of Soviet bloc agents of influence were deployed into Islamic countries to help shape political narratives and manipulate public opinions. The disinformation framework established during this campaign are widely cited by historians and geopolitical analysts as the ideological roots of contemporary anti-Israel narratives, including the characterization of Zionism as racism. So that's kind of like, if you look at it from today's perspective, Ashton, like it's almost like the deployment of agents. That's like what you see on like X. Like you just see like all these like specific agents carrying a narrative. Like one of the ones I was going to talk to you about was Professor Zhang. You know, because Professor Zhang now is saying that America is preparing a 600,000 person ground troop invasion, and he's getting platformed everywhere. He got platformed by Alex Jones. He got platformed all into this kind of like Russian sphere of influence media circuit that's on the web. That's like all the podcast bros. It's like their whole kind of like movement. It's all like America first, but America first-ish. You know, like... What's your take on all that Russian media sphere, Operation SIG, what we just read, and how it relates today?
Good point. And you may want to increase your volume a little bit. I think they're saying you're a little low still. But I can tell you exactly how that all works. I went on 100 podcasts talking about a plane being teleported, and they were of all natures. In fact, there's a lot of the people that are the people you're talking about, you know, that have been now pushing this. You know, it's clearly anti-Semitic. But it's really just meant to weaken America in the same way that we're trying to weaken Russia through Ukraine, but they're just using propaganda instead. I mean, it's a pretty smart move, honestly, if you think about it. It's like you can't win a conventional war, so you should fight psychologically instead. And so you just look for people's weakness, and this is a huge one. I didn't even realize it until I started seeing the Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, like how powerful it is. I don't know if you saw the Caleb Hammer clip from yesterday of the lady who's just like, I think Charlie Kirk's still alive. And he's like, you watch Candace Owens, she's like, of course I do. It's like the way that she talks about it, it's like, it's clearly like sports to her, you know, it's clearly, and he's even like, you're just doing this for fun, right? Like, no, I really believe this. Is like, and you look at that and you go, wow, you can definitely control these people's minds, like easily control these.
That's Goyslop.
Yeah. And that is Goyslop.
That is not pure Goyslop. That is exactly what Goyslop should be used for, the word.
Yeah, because they believe these ideas that, you know, doesn't make any sense at all. Like he's still alive, you know, it's like, it's beyond the pale. And the thing about it is they use like Christ as a shield. They use the flag as a shield. You know, they'll claim to be, you know, America first or Christ is king. They don't believe these things. They're just saying them and using them as a shield from criticism. So they're saying, oh, I'm America first. I'm Christ is king. Therefore, you can't say anything. You can't criticize me when I say I hate the Jews. It's like, because I said I'm Christ is king. That's what I care about. Like, okay, anybody who's trying to do that, they're dishonest straight off the bat. You know, if they're trying to say, they're trying to put their ideology there, you know, I forget what the quote is, but it's like they'll come wrapped in the flag, you know, is that's when how the dishonest people will come to you. But one point I do want to make is that there's no good and bad in this, you know. We're probably the bad guys if you really think from a higher level, America, you know, and our allies, because we're the ones that are controlling the planet. I mean, we're the ones that can force Russia into a kind of meaningless war with Ukraine, at least from our perspective, weakening them. We're the ones that, look what we just did to Iran. You know, what we're going to be talking about here. We just imposed our will over Iran. Their best way of fighting back is putting some disinformation about how we lost. Like, what did we lose? All their leadership is dead. All their nuclear scientists are dead. All their nuclear facilities are destroyed. Their infrastructure is destroyed at will. We just think how many
Lebanon is becoming free of Hezbollah. Like they just recognized Israel for the first time, you know, and they were like, yeah, keep your troops in our country. We're totally happy with it. You know, it's like, and there people are like, if they say that they won the war. But why do you think we stopped at all out system, you know, to take down their system? Like, why did we stop entirely? Like, why didn't we create the vassal state? You know, from my perspective, I thought that Trump sold Iran to Qatar in like some secret deal so that they would have a proxy state with actual land, because they don't have land, kind of like North Korea to China. They're able to do all sorts of weird tests on nuclear stuff that, you know, China is held by like different standards, you know. So Iran now is like the wild card of Qatar, and Trump like bails on the whole project, and Qatar basically bought the whole country of Iran for pennies on the dollar in like some rebuild effort, you know. So, and JD Vance is sitting there getting played at the Arab Bazaar, you know.
I'm a little worried about JD Vance. I don't think I'm a JD Vance supporter. I just there's weird vibes. He's hanging out with the wrong people. His dude Alex on social media is acting really weird and hanging out with the same people that we're criticizing. But to your point, these are very good geopolitical questions that people aren't going to get anywhere else. Number one, you're basically saying, why didn't we take over Iran? Why did we not just, you know, institute our own fake government or whatever we need to do and make them our vassal, essentially?
Yeah, it's so a very good question. Like.
But here's the thing. This is the same. The answer is the same to when people ask me, if we have this teleportation free energy technology, why don't we control the world? And I would say we do. It's people's perspective of control of the world is what's off. It's not like the movies where it's like, oh, well, you're now part of Americana Extended, or, you know, whatever you want to say. These are people that are not ethnically American. No matter what we do, they're still Iranian. So you're like, okay, now the question is, how do you take over a country where the war is psychological? You have to win the battle of you're now part of us. You now love us, when they really don't. And we just wiped out all their leadership and killed them all. It's not
They
as
did
simple.
love us. They did love us before we stopped. They were like, we were winning so hard amongst the populace. I mean, we were taking Iran away from Russia and China, like completely.
I think we still are. We still are, but it's a long battle, right? It's not the kind of thing.
Well, this guy, as long as he lives, and this regime of the mullahs and their current form of the Islamic constitutional republic that they have, you know, then that's what limits the power of the people, you know. So we like are, and this is like one of the problems that I had with Venezuela, because in Venezuela, like they duly elected that woman, like just 2 years ago, like 1 year ago in 2025. And then like in less than a year we took over, but we didn't instill the duly elected people of the public or even bring about a new vote. We just like instilled our secret will that nobody's going to ever know, not even the American people. Like, what is the power structure? Why is gas prices just now starting to go down when we had Venezuelan oil this whole time? And we're going in on Iranian oil, and Trump's like, we took oil tankers out of the Straits of Hormuz, motherfuckers. And I'm sitting here thinking, but we have Venezuela, like, you know. Also something on that before we pivot, you know, that it'll help you in your comment. Alexander Dugin has like this theory of the multipolar universe, the multipolar world, multipolarity, he calls it, in his political philosophy. And his political philosophy, he basically like creates a world where America controls North and South America and Russia controls all of Asia and Europe. And Europe pushes back a little bit, but Russia's the predominant sphere of influence, and Russia and America are the two powers of the world, and blah, blah, blah. And he calls that the multipolar world. So like while we're like kind of like retreating from the Middle East in a certain sense, you know, Russia is like still actively recruiting for their multipolar world. When they say take Venezuela but leave Iran, I'm thinking, oh, he's setting up the multipolar world, and there's something very deeply Russian happening at the core, where America's losing its political influence around the entire world, at the same time clandestine keeping in South America.
I mean, if Iran is losing, if that's what losing a war looks like, I hope we lose every war. If that's what losing a war looks like, I hope we lose every single war.
Like the end of war, you know, is regime change. So we didn't really win the war because the regime is still there. That isn't literally.
But here, why did they do it? To your point, well, I think that they looked at Iraq and Syria, and they looked at the criticism online, and the big criticism was this was going to be some kind of forever war, or we were going to have boots on the ground. So I think from the administration's perspective, those were the two things they wanted to avoid. Wanted to avoid boots on the ground, don't want this thing to stretch out forever. I don't think they really necessarily cared about regime change, not a major priority. To me, you know, when you look at, and anyone who's going to criticize or talk about the regime change there or the situation for the populace, there's really two questions in terms of, are they in a good spot? Number one, do they have the internet? Is the internet on? Number two, do they have access to social media? Generally, you're going to find the governments that are controlling, that are, you know, fascistic, I guess, they shut down those things because they don't want people to know the truth of what's going on. And without those things, we're going to lose whatever information war. You know, we're not going to be able to fight back and get people to realize America is actually a pretty cool place. And that's ultimately, I think, what we need to change minds if we do want to instill regime change. We can't just force it to happen.
Right.
From your perspective,
gas prices can't be $6 a gallon in California, and a tear down home is $1 million, and people want to join America for that. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, what do we really have to offer? You know, it hasn't been great in the last few years, but I think that even still, we're still better than every other country on the planet.
We have $31 trillion a year collectively GDP growth. That's what we offer.
Yeah. And we have, you know, we control the world. Anyone that says otherwise say, well, how come China and Russia didn't step in when we just dunked on Iran? When we just blew up everything? They didn't do anything. They didn't even say anything. They just sat there and watched. That's why the whole thing about Dugin and the multipolar thing, that's just fan fiction. That's Russian fan fiction. Russia's been on the decline for 25 years, 30 years, maybe, ever since the fall of the Soviet Union. They just couldn't keep up economically. And so
now their military's been like significantly depleted because of Ukraine.
Yeah. They have no chance. We could do to Russia what we did to Iran. And you'd say, well, they have nuclear weapons. We can stop their nuclear weapons. And this is the thing that's scary.
What do we have that could stop a nuclear weapon?
We have literal directed energy weapons. That's the simple one, actually. They've now just admitted the directed energy weapons are all real.
Right.
This is tied to the technology with which we use to save that pilot, the ghost murmur technology.
Was it Israeli space lasers?
No, it wasn't space lasers that saved the pilot, but it's probably the same physics. The physics is an extra dimension. It's the same physics that the UFO community is hiding and talking about. When they talk about the extra dimensional aliens, what they're talking about is there is an extension of physics that was hidden. Did I freeze here?
An extension of physics that was hidden.
And it's an extra dimension is the secret. This extra dimension represents an extra energy source. This represents a mechanism by which we can make a warp drive or a wormhole.
This is like quantum energy, correct?
Precisely. It is quantum energy. The same virtual particles they talk about, that is 0 point energy.
Part of the way that we're pulling from an external source, a different dimension, and powering the world from that dimension into this dimension.
And that dimension is space-time itself. Why is there even distance? Why does space even exist? It's that we're not in a void. We're in something more akin to a matrix. And if you're in something that's a matrix, there's an underlying code, underlying structure, underlying energy to it. And so we think there's this tiny amount of little energy, like a kind of little puddle on the sidewalk. But it turns out it's like an ocean that's immensely deep. That's what quantum mechanics shows us. We just don't see it. We don't realize that it's there, but the math shows that it must be. And this is what they're hiding. We have that. We have unlocked quantum energy and everything that becomes possible from quantum energy, which includes literally making a wormhole, like making something teleport, like quantum tunneling or quantum entanglement, and making something disappear over here and reappear over here. So even if our directed energy weapon can't destroy the nuke instantly from outer space, which it probably can, see the Golden Dome, then we have balls of plasma, which people are saying are aliens, UFOs. It's really just drones that are fusion reactors. And they can manipulate space-time. They hit the energy densities required using like vibration and resonance, just like with like shattering a wine glass. Like you would say your sound, if I were to yell at a wine glass, it's never going to spontaneously shatter. But if you hit the right pitch,
a specific frequency,
that's resonance.
Right.
Now imagine using that same concept, but with 3 plasma orbs in space-time itself. And imagine you were able to hit a resonance where suddenly like you just crack space-time. That would be the equivalent from a mathematical wormhole. And the problem is we have this science fiction version of a wormhole in our minds. It's like this opening comes up and I'm going to fly through it and then I'm going through a tunnel and I come out. But that's not really what it is. A real wormhole is quantum tunneling. A real wormhole is you're inside a bubble. That bubble goes around you. You're suddenly displaced from space-time for just a brief second. And now that bubble reappears somewhere else. And as the bubble dissipates around you, you're just in a different location. Now, there wasn't actually a tunnel at that point. You were just here and now you're just over here. It's more akin to like if you're in the ocean and you see the waves and then you just like dip underneath one of the waves and reappear on the other side. And what's crazy is this actually conserves momentum. There's no violation of physics when you do this.
So where did that?
You're basically just able to almost like push back, almost like a train.
So that plane that you're always talking about,
and then
where
just
did it go?
Slingshot yourself through.
So this plane that you're always talking about that they teleported, where did it go? If that's the case, if it opened up a wormhole.
I'm disconnecting. Sorry, am I disconnecting? My internet seems to be like sketchy here. Where'd the plane go? The way, yeah, I heard you. I think in the videos that I'm talking about, you have MH370, the missing airliner, and you see these 3 plasma orbs, which are drones, fusion reactors, particle accelerators, and they're spinning around the plane perfectly vertical. So if I just stop moving the plane and you imagine them spinning like this, the frame of reference for the plane is basically stationary. The same way when you look at physics and you can't tell the difference between the background moving and the object moving, they're creating a perfect frame of reference around this plane. In fact, the plane's moving at a constant speed and so are the orbs. They're moving all at the exact same speed, exactly the same speed. What they're doing is they're creating a magnetic railgun. It's a railgun, but it's a railgun like through an extra dimension. In fact, I would argue they're pointing it. So the reason why they're spinning around it perfectly vertically is they're sending it exactly backwards. And that the real question is, what's on the other side? Is that, okay, I'm teleporting this thing backwards, but okay, I can just go back infinitely in that direction. And you're saying I'm displaced from space-time, so that means technically I could appear anywhere over that way. So there must be an anchor on the other side. This is why my nickname is actually Ashton Forbes, is because there has to be some anchor on the other side that says, okay, I'm shooting it this direction, but this is where I want it to pop out. Presumably like another orb that's oppositely polarized to these orbs. But I might as well be Miss Cleo trying to guess. We don't have videos on the other side. But what I'll say is they almost guaranteed they did record the other side. They knew where the plane was going to show up on the other side. They were already ready to go. And they probably had a camera sitting right there waiting for it to show up.
And that was the test. What do you think they did with all the people that were inside?
I think they were probably already dead. I think they put some kind of diversion battery fire on the plane to make it turn around to do this operation. And I think it was toxic. And I think it was like, maybe they even knew it was going to kill all the people on the plane. And so they did this teleportation thing. And that thing was just for show, like just to like flex on China, because this was a CIA, but definitely military involved as well. JSOC, one of the things I found, this is just actually crazy. I'm surprised. Like, I should probably get a Pulitzer for this, not to be egotistical, but I found the guy that leaked the videos, and I got his stipulation of fact from his court case because he went to prison for 9 years, and he definitely leaked those videos. In the videos, or in his court case, it mentions that there's a secret classified addendum, and the information that he leaked, they actually removed parts of the case from the public's view in agreement with him in order to drop it, to lessen the charges, because I think they hid the videos so they wouldn't be publicly part of the case. But in there it says that the information he leaked was related to the VPU-2 Wizards and to Joint Task Force 519, which is now a disbanded Joint Task Force. And so I'm going, okay, one of these is how he saw these videos, how he had access to them. And I looked at it. It says who reviewed the evidence that he leaked, and this is a huge clue. And there's like 13 different commands of the United States government across the world based on different areas, etc. And 4 reviewed the Edward Lin evidence. Africa Command, which is where parts of MH370 washed ashore. Pacific Command, which is the part about the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, etc., Japan. The Navy, which is where Edward Lin was. And number 4, Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. JSOC is that does all our covert operations with the military. Why the hell would JSOC be reviewing the evidence that Edward Lin leaked, unless it was a special operation that he leaked video or something of, which that's what those are. So yeah, that is military and CIA working hand in hand. And what's especially scary is I've been monitoring the UFO community because I've tagged multiple of these people as being like literally covering up that we've figured this out. They know for sure, and they probably helped the government build this kind of crazy technology. And then they're going to the public, going to Congress, going, oh, the aliens are real. We need amnesty because we want to tell you about the aliens. I'm going, are you going to tell us about the teleportation technology? Are you going to tell us that you figured out fusion? Are you going to tell us that you can pull energy out of the vacuum? You're not talking about that because that's national security. That's classified. They can't talk about that. Their NDAs probably get them killed if they talk about that kind of stuff. But I'm watching these guys, and one of the things that they're talking about too is that the UFO technology is in some special access program in JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. And you're going, oh, well, JSOC, there you go. That's exactly who I'm saying is part of this operation for MH370. So maybe JSOC is the one that has access to the technology. I just assumed it's the CIA and the Directorate of Science and Technology, but there's a definite overlap. Those videos don't show aliens in them, and I think what they really show is what those people are trying to hide. That they're trying to hide that we've got some super advanced alien technology. Aliens probably exist out there, but this technology is definitely in human hands right now. And to me, now that I know that fact, I'm not believing anything about aliens visiting us from the people hiding that until they come out and fess up and admit what's really going on here. Because the part that I'm struggling with is that plane was 2014. It's 2026. You're telling me we had plasma orb fusion reactors in 2014 that can teleport airplanes? That this is like the biggest airplane, second biggest airplane or something like that in the whole Boeing fleet. I mean, this isn't, to your point, you're like, why they test this? That's not a test. I mean, if it's a test, it's like much larger version scale, but they already knew that stuff was going to work. They already had fusion reactors. They already knew space-time manipulation was going to work. That was a planned out operation where everything was planned out to the T. I mean, there was probably, I don't even know how many meetings, but that's the kind of operation where you don't just do that at the drop of a hat. That's the kind of operation where you plan out months in advance. And that's why those videos leaking is, I mean, I think I'd have to say it's the biggest leak of national security information ever in the history of the world. I mean, nothing is ever bigger than that. Maybe unless you just value, human lives and some of the horrible shit we did there. But from a technological perspective, yeah.
So this is like basically like free energy type weapon technology being used for weaponry, right? Quantum energy.
That's exactly it.
Quantum energy is really like we pull it essentially out of ether, like almost like Tesla's ether harvesting. It's just,
you'll see that all these guys literally reference Tesla and they reference the ether. And the reason why you don't see them reference it more often is because they know the stigma associated to it. And some of them, especially the smart ones on the inside, are actually out there. And when they write their patents, they intentionally don't mention any of these things, and they'll never mention free energy or anything because they'll know they'll get rejected. And this goes to show why it's a psychological thing. It's like, how can we ever get through this when our own guys that know have to lie and change the wording of things in order to get people to listen?
Do you know anybody working in quantum energy in the United States? Have you ever met anyone?
I know all of them. That's all I've been researching. And I mean, I've got the literature. I'd be surprised if people have more than I do, honestly, in terms of the science. But this is my favorite one for teleportation. David Froning literally worked with the Air Force to figure it out. That's David Froning, Faster Than Light, Quantum Vacuum Power, and Warp Drive. This is my favorite book in the whole world, to be honest with you. I mean, it goes through basically how they made the orbs and how they figured out teleportation. Starts with like an intro of his experience in aerospace and helping develop solutions for the government for like radar, anti-missile technology. And then it goes straight into like him working with these guys about a dense plasma focus, which is a fusion reactor. And then right after that starts talking about unlabored acceleration and how teleportation works with space-time manipulation. And they all reference one man, Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff is a name that everybody should know. I've been trying to make him as famous as I can, but he's the one that has been the central authority of kind of getting everybody together. He's definitely in the legacy program. That's what they call the secret UFO program. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that commissioned the DIRDs, Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, 2009. I think it was a $500,000 contract for 38 scientific papers. And I've been screaming about these papers. And just today, he just released an interview. Hal Puthoff, Congressman Burleson, UAP Gerb, and Avi Loeb. And he brings up the DIRDs again. And now everybody's posting about the DIRDs. And I'm going, I already know every single author. I've been digging into all these guys' physics. This is the physics of extra dimension, pulling back energy from the vacuum. Space-time manipulation, ones about warp drives, wormholes, everything you could possibly want. And they reference all the people that I've been digging into, which are scientists that were all highly credentialed, respected, but also unknown, relatively unknown.
There's a secret technologies that are hidden from us on all levels, and also ancient technologies. And my original speculation in Iran, when the pilot went down, like why we stopped the war, was because I feel like something was used on us that we weren't prepared for. What do you think about that? Is there any truth to that? I know that CNN just came out with that post that said that this drone formation, like jellyfish, the plane. I mean, that's not multiple drones. They don't look like a jellyfish. It's a very weird thing.
Yeah, that is, you know what? You just reminded me of that. I can't believe I even forgot about that. But yeah, that pilot that we rescued said that he saw some weird jellyfish-like drones
Say that again.
showing up.
Yeah.
That the pilot said he saw some weird jellyfish-like drones, and a couple of those UFO videos they released, people were saying it looked like a jellyfish on there. Now, what I've been saying is these drones are plasma. And if you look up plasma, what first thing you realize is plasma has a self-organizing nature to it. If you look up plasma toroid, you're going to usually see like a glass ball, and a guy like touches it with like electrostatic, and then suddenly, boom, there's like a plasma ring, and it's just stable, and you're just watching it, and you're wondering, how is that? Why is it doing that? That's the stability of plasma. So now take it to its extreme and say, okay, well, what could the government do with that?
Right.
Oh, well, they can figure out, they can make a little device that's like emitting plasma all around it, ionizing the air and using the air as a fuel for whatever plasma it needs. And now this thing's like a balloon basically, but it's going to be kind of amorphous because the plasma is trying to stay kind of stable. But depending on how good you are with magnetohydrodynamics, which is controlling the fluid nature of plasma, you know, your plasma ball might be really stable, like perfect sphere, or it might be like kind of janky. So when
Can
we see
plasma
some
ever
of these,
be like walked upon? Could it become physical to be walked upon, like kind of like light cities?
probably because plasma is essentially electromagnetism. And the reason why my hand doesn't go through this microphone is not because of the fact that this is a solid object. It's because of the electrons. And the electrons are repelling the electrons in my hand. So kind of like Magneto and X-Men, in theory, magnetism, yeah, it can allow you to levitate. It can allow you to stand on top of it, but not in probably the way you're thinking from a perspective of when you're sitting on top of a cushion of like a carpet. It would be more of like you're just like levitating, wondering, whoa, this is weird. Why can I pull this off? Now, in terms of that, if you were thinking, you know, is there a person on top of that, maybe, or inside? I don't know. For me, I would just think if I see a blob like that, it's probably plasma based. And it probably is something that is either producing more plasma. It wouldn't surprise me if they can shoot things out of it. It's like, oh, you're shooting a little bit of plasma out that's now also self-sustaining, like blowing a smoke ring, essentially. That would be our first thought. But it could be something that's more conventional. You know, it doesn't have to be some crazy plasma thing. But the guy did say specifically it was alien shit, I think is what he said, like alien type shit or whatever the quote was.
So what do you think about that? Is it alien shit, or is it alien shit for that pilot, or is it like, and whose was it? Was it Iranian, or was it American, or was it like New Schwabenland type technology? Do you know about?
You brought up a good point.
Do you know about New Schwabenland?
Because I think that you brought up a good point I don't want to forget here, which is like, did we get out of the war because of this technology? Or I would frame it a different way. Did we enter the war because of this technology? I would say, did we really care that Iran had nuclear weapons? I don't think we're really afraid of conventional nuclear weapons anymore. I think we're more afraid of 0-point energy based weapons, vacuum energy based weapons. And the reason is because they don't require enriched uranium. You can pull this off relatively low tech compared to the complexity required for a conventional nuclear weapon. And if they start figuring that out and start tinkering with that, start making plasma drones or other weird stuff like that, you better believe we should be going in there and wiping them out. Because the next stage is they're going to make a weapon that we can't stop. They're going to make a weapon that's going to blow up the White House before we can even react. And you think about that and you go, would they really do that? Yeah, they would definitely really do that. Did you see them firing missiles indiscriminately?
They called their weapon the secret weapon of Allah. That's what the Iranian regime says. They have a secret weapon of Allah. They're very public about it. He posts that on his English Twitter account. He publishes that on his English Twitter account. Secret weapon of Allah. And, you know, obviously there's only one God. So, like, I feel like, you know, really, because I got the red heifer ashes, I got the real secret weapon of God, you know, like, but I just got a huge new shipment of red heifer ashes. Like, you know, everybody's like, it's not real. And I'm like, okay, guys, go think that. And I'm out here dousing people with red heifer ashes. But it's a secret weapon of consciousness because it removes the impediment of death so you can see the world clearly. Very high level of consciousness that you can access with red heifer ash. But anyways, other secret weapons of God. I don't know if the Iranians have such a thing, but what I do know is that in the Biden administration, Iran laid a huge claim down to a vast swath of territory in Antarctica. And I think it was in conjunction with New Schwabenland. And I think that that's what this conflict is really about. Just like the war in Ukraine was also about the reemergence of a Fourth Reich. And that's why they have, the Azov Brigade, they have the SS logos all over them. They're like really into this like neo-Nazism on the Ukrainian side. Biological weapons manufacturing, that was like kind of their Fourth Reichish approach. The COVID 2020 biological weapon was what I claim didn't come from America or China. It came from a secret agency, if you will, that had to impose like a rebirth, like if you know, type of a rebirth. And that was COVID and all the characters with the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and that kind of like one strategic aspect of the culling. But there's other players involved too. Across the board, there's like, you got your New Schwabenland Nazis and you got your mainland Nazis who are getting chased out of Argentina by Javier Milei. But when it comes down to Iran, I was very curious about this swath of territory and these alliances, because it is very NSDAP aligned, Iran, and very Fourth Reich aligned. And these technologies that could be in New Schwabenland in Antarctica, I was wondering what your thoughts are on them being deployed by Iran and used on the battlefield of Iran as like kind of like a pushback to U.S. hegemony. Russia didn't do it. China didn't do it. Where did it come from? Like if it did come, if there was this jellyfish plasma entity, like you said, or, I've seen plasma UFO, like jellyfish looking UFO style or UAP style things that were disclosed in all the disclosures that we've had recently. Yep. What are your thoughts on him, on some sort of hidden power in New Schwabenland or something of this nature influencing the war in Iran?
The big question is, where the hell does this technology come from? Like, does this come from aliens? Did we just figure this out naturally from the Manhattan Project and nuclear weapons? Did it come from the Nazis? Did we dig something up and find it? I honestly think all these things are possible, and some of them even probable. It's hard to actually say. Ultimately, I don't really care where it came from, but I would say the Antarctica thing is, if they are hiding something there, it's probably something that got buried that we dug up. And the reason being, it's a big block of ice. That's a perfect place to hide something, just like in the movies where Insano Man or whatever comes out of the ice, and you're like, oh, okay, here he is. Oh, he was buried, preserved in the ice. You can see through the ice too. So if there was a spaceship or something that had ever crashed, that would be a good spot to randomly find it. And then you find that technology and you go, now it becomes a race to reverse engineer it, because whoever gets the quantum power first wins. Now, the reason why I don't even really talk about this that much is because that already happened in like the 60s, at least according to my belief of how this technology arrived.
We're just living in some sort of holographic matrix, repeating the storyline of their conquest and how they did it.
That's what scares me, is that the TV show Dark is basically a time loop like that. That the time loop starts when, this event happens, and then they're stuck in this perpetual time loop where the universe only exists because somebody manipulated time and started messing around. And you wonder, is that what's going on here? Like, are there people that actually know the future already in the U.S. government? Because when you start manipulating these kind of wormhole type capabilities, first question people start wondering is, from the quantum mechanical perspective, am I getting retrocausality? Am I actually like able to influence the future and or predict the future based on this? I like to think no, because it's going to be hard to rationalize this reality if the answer is yes. And good news is, some of the experiments that I've been able to dig into, specifically around John Kramer, who's one of these Black Project engineers, he says that his experiments between, I think, 2014 show that, weirdly, when we try to like cheat time and go back in time, nature just shuts it down. Like, normally the way we would look at this is like the double slit experiment. We would look at an EPR experiment. We'd say, oh, can I determine what's going to happen if I look at this image over here? can I determine what's going to happen over here on the right based on what I see over here on the image on the left? Like if I see one of 3 options over here on the left, that corresponds to 3 different options on the right. And yet the light hasn't even hit the option on the right. And I already can tell which one it's going to go down, which path it's going to follow. You say, well, that's predicting the future. And that is what these EPR experiments have been trying to test. And when they look at them, they look and they say, there's no reason why it actually shouldn't be able to be possible. Now, when they try to test this and scale this up, what they find is that even though it should be possible, suddenly the pattern falls apart. The wave function breaks down, and we start to now, we can't actually determine which path it's gone down. So this would be essentially saying that if we try to go back in time, the universe is going to stop you. You try to go through that wormhole that's going to send you back to the past, and it's going to blow up or do the equivalent of dissipate and not let you go through it. It's just going to fail for whatever reason. It might even be like in the movies.
It's unstable.
Exactly. Now, here's another crazy thought. If you want to get really weird with this, which I do, I love getting weird with it.
Yeah, please.
Is that so? I started watching John Kramer's presentations where he's talking about wormholes, and a guy brings up a really good point. He says, okay, if this is true and nature doesn't let you do this, now you have a problem, because in theory, one wormhole, that's not an issue. We can say, okay, I'm going to go through this wormhole and I'm actually going to appear faster than the speed of light over here. But nothing's causality wise, we're not going to mess anything up. The problem is when I start connecting multiple wormholes, where I say, okay, I'm going to have this wormhole go over here. And then when I get out here, I'm going to jump in another wormhole and then I'm going to go back over here. When I start doing that, now you start to get issues where like, wait, am I going back in time when I do that? When I jump through the second wormhole and go further back than what I was trying to do when I jumped over forward? And what this means is you can't have overlapping wormholes. Is if you have overlapping wormholes, it's going to break down the whole system. And so these guys start talking about it. They go, we could test this by trying to make a wormhole. And if the wormhole explodes, we'll know that somebody already built a super highway of wormholes through us. And I started thinking about that. I go, geez, man, that seems crazy. Most people are thinking that is so insane, but actually the physics kind of lines up. That's what scares me about that. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that we are in some kind of prison where we can't even escape from it because somebody already built a freeway right over us. Like we were out in the boonies, they wanted to build a highway through us, and we were like, okay, here, give me $50, you can have this land. And then they just built a wormhole freeway right past us, and now we're stuck here.
You're saying like our whole reality could possibly be like a ledge over a freeway overpass.
Yeah, we could. That's probably how insignificant we are. I mean, I think we're also
the truth is, the truth is like people like to speculate about like these advanced technologies and stuff like that, and they kind of like it exists in like this presupposition that there's like all this creation going on that is like outside of the creator, and it doesn't need like you get people talking about aliens and Nazis in Antarctica and advanced technology, but nobody's like God. Does God have technology or spiritual technology? And like, can that be accessible to human beings? And the answer from the Kabbalah is certainly yes. The answer from the Kabbalah is very explicit, that God has intended to give over all of his powers to humanity, knowing that humans will do good for it, with it. And so he gave us the vast knowledge of the Kabbalah. But the Kabbalah involves teleportation. It's called Kvitza de Derech. The Kabbalah involves telekinesis. The Kabbalah involves all sorts of things called Kabbalat Ma'asit, the physical Kabbalah. The whole branch of Kabbalah called Kabbalat Ma'asit. It's the physical Kabbalah, the Kabbalah of physics. And there's like this enshrouded mystical, kind of a mystical personification of physics that allows people to truly understand the limitlessness of technology when applied through the lens of God as opposed to the lens of man or aliens or any of these things. So these concepts about teleportation, these aren't new to me or out. They come from my faith. Actually, they don't. My belief in teleportation doesn't come from like my belief in science. It comes from my belief in my faith and my spirituality and what I've read in like holy mystical books and stuff like that. So
isn't that cool?
It is cool
how the technology seems to like overlap directly with super old historic religious texts. like it's the reference to the stories are referenced in things that are even that old, really makes you wonder if you know, they didn't actually have or know at least of some of these quantum technologies even thousands of years ago. You know, maybe they looked at, like you asked a question, why couldn't people thousands of years ago understand the ether? Why couldn't they understand that we were in some kind of matrix? I would argue, without the common misconception that we're told, which is space is an empty vacuum, most people would think we are in a medium. They would think you can't have electromagnetic waves in nothing. Waves always have to be in something. That's what's crazy about it. So I wonder, like, maybe people thousands of years ago, they didn't have microchips and iPhones, but what if they understood sound? What if they understood this spin nature of how to connect gravity to electromagnetism in a way that's just more natural? You know, what if they understood that?
So listen to this. I'm curious your thoughts on this. So in Kabbalah, there's like this argument, what's the difference between Kabbalah and witchcraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very simple explanation when you know it. A lot of people parade. Kabbalah is like a form of witchcraft, yada, yada.
Interesting.
The difference is, in witchcraft, one must perform some physical act on a physical thing in order to change the reality. But in Kabbalah, one must utter a word. It comes from vernacular speech, a specific name of God or frequency, and even the highest levels of Kabbalah is the only thing necessary to change reality is to think it, not even to need to speak it, but to be able to change reality. So in my book, I give an entire lecture on what I have deemed colloquially as macrokinesis, which is the ability to cause events to happen, through your mind thinking them. But the whole concept of telekinesis and these type of spiritual powers are very unforeign to the Kabbalah. So, but if you think about it, now that we've taken and made a differential between Kabbalah and witchcraft, let's take that example of Kabbalah even further. That if in physics all these things are just sounds, the Kabbalah divides all creatures into 4 categories. Damim, which are the silent ones, basically stones. Prachim, which are the plants. Chayot, which are the animals. And Medabrim. It doesn't say the humans. It says Medabrim, the speaking creatures. And there's more than just humans in this Kabbalah that have been given the power of speech. But essentially, if it's all just resonance and sound, and we have been imbued with the power of the Creator, which is literally the ability to speak, what sound must I make to be able to levitate an object, or to be able to say something and have it have a physical change in the world? Because sound is physics. It's a waveform. It's, even light, the photon of light has a mass. So the ability to act sound, even just now, like speaking, we're changing and influencing the world by telling this story in the English language and sharing this, so whoever is listening to this can have their brain opened up to a new level of freedom, like we spoke about earlier in the show. But the human has been endowed with this technology that we don't even need specific technology to emulate the powers of God. We just need the right frequencies, sound and frequency and pitch vibration to be able to move an object or teleport or do any of these things. What are your thoughts on that and the human ability to have incapable power through speech?
Well, I think you're going to like what I'm about to say, which is the person who is the expert on those things for the government. His name is Hal Puthoff. He's the guy that researched remote viewing for SRI, and everything you talked about are the things that he researched, including the ability to change the future. The way you check that, the way he did check that, was that they had people predict the stock market. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out, could you do better than average? Because if you can do better than average, it's not that you're trying to pick one every time. It's that, hey, if you're just guessing, you should be guessing 50% of the time. If I just simplify it down to a coin flip, you would say, if you're guessing on a coin flip over a long period of time, it should go to 50%. You're right half the time, you're wrong half the time. If suddenly you're coming up 51 or 55% of the time and you're getting it right over 1,000 flips, how are you doing that? You're predicting the future. You're cheating it. So it's not that you're looking for someone to be right every time. So you're looking for minor changes over long periods of time, and that shows a real effect. And that's what Hal Puthoff showed with remote viewing. Everybody tries to talk about, even he, I think, tries to show disinformation and be like, oh, these people are visualizing this thing over here, which maybe they are. But the real amazing part is, if you just look at the stats of it, you go, there's a real effect there. What is that real effect, and why is that happening at all? Why is there something more than 50% ever, even if it's 1% more? And Hal Puthoff is also the government's expert on 0-point energy. He's the guy that wrote the first major papers that everybody references. I know because I've read them all. Because I'm reading all the books, or I've read all the books that he and his colleagues have been writing. And the first one is Ground State of the Hydrogen Atom. This paper shows that every atom in my body, your body, and every single device is in the 0-point energy. From a quantum level, we can prove that must be the case. Because you take your little atom, it's got an electron spinning, moving around it. That's energy. If you believe in thermodynamics, is that a perpetual motion machine? No, it's radiating energy, but it's also gaining energy from the 0-point energy. It must be. Otherwise, that electron should crash. It should crash right into the nucleus. Why doesn't it crash? Why does it stay perfectly stable all the time for billions of years? The atoms stay stable because they're in the 0-point energy field. They're in that ocean of energy. That's the most prolific scientific paper that anyone can understand to realize that there really is this extra dimension of energy. And the next paper is Gravity is a 0-point energy fluctuation force. Hal Puthoff shows that electromagnetism connects to gravity, and this is how we can control gravity, manipulate gravity. And so these are the papers that everybody references when they want to understand, how can we make a warp drive? How can we pull quantum energy from the vacuum? And it's directly connected to the spiritual aspect, which is why I tell people there's no inconsistency between science, physics, and faith and God. Actually, I look at the opposite way. I say this stuff proves God exists. And I look at, just like you said, which is, this is God giving us his power, determining if we're worthy, if we're going to destroy ourselves with it, or if we're going to move on to the next echelon. And if, for my video game players out here, we're moving up from the Bronze Age up here, straight up to the Industrial Age, straight up to the future, Star Trek age. That's how big of a jump this is. This is like a literal test of our civilization to determine, are we ready for this? And that's probably why all these weird UFO alien gatekeeper people are acting so damn weird about it, because they know the stakes are beyond what anybody can even imagine. And they're going, how do we even do this?
Yeah, I also believe that, but in Kabbalah, it all circles around the ability to have free will. Like the ultimate power, the ultimate zero energy is free will. It's like this essence called Tzur Tak, where God out of nothing created himself. And that's like the essential, quintessential 0 point of all energy is the God force. He created himself out of nothing, out of complete non-existence. Existence existed. So the Kabbalah determines that this is free will. It's something called Bechirat Chofshit. And this power has the power to rewrite all of creation. It's much higher than any of these other lower level technologies, spiritual technologies like remote viewing or whatnot. It's the ability to even cause existence or non-existence. And according to the Kabbalah, this power was given to humanity. This power was given to humanity through the Torah of the Jews, specifically. The only way to access it is through the Torah of the Jews. And it's not some sort of physics thing. It's a specific vibration and specifically names of God. There's specifically names of God that can be said or heard in the head. Like there's this one that Jews are secretly given every year on Yom Kippur. And it's in one specific prayer. I'm thinking of the name right now. We're not allowed to say it, but it's in the prayer book every single year. I'm not going to, should I would love to say it, but I don't want to disrespect God for the sake of some
blaspheme or
goy slop audience. You know what I'm saying? But, but there's a name that we have this tradition, like as Jews, like this is a part of our tradition. And this specific name, you don't want to say it. You just want to think about it. And it causes like vibrations to go out, butterfly effect, and the world changes.
Voldemort.
But also there is like this physical element, to creation. There's this like, just like there was the force of Jacob, which was the etherical force, there was this force of Esav, which was the physical force. The two brothers, the Jacob and Esav in the Bible, Kabbalistically are seen through that lens. And if you look at the world today, this like Roman concept of like weaponry and advancing technology through weaponry, it's like kind of like its own religion. And so like I could see how they would tap into 0 point energy, inspired by the fact of having a new weapon to control the earth with. What do you think the actual 0 point weaponry is besides this teleportation device? Like what do you think, what is out there that you've seen that would stop the American military in its tracks and have it retreat?
Well, the answer to what you were saying before is the super force. Salvatore Pais would say there is one underlying force, and that is that you could say it's the God particle. He calls it the super force. I think the question is, what would we do with unlimited energy? That's the big question I saw in the chat. What would we do with unlimited energy? I think we would control the world, weaponize it, not give it to people. All the things that we're literally doing with it. So look at all the good things we could do with it. We could end hunger on the planet.
We could create worlds. Why do we need to rule one world when we can just create an infinite source of worlds? We can have every single human can have their own Earth.
Precisely. They absolutely can. And then this is the point about free will. And one before I get to that, though, which is that you have to realize we have to use this advantage while we have it. America, our allies, we have an advantage that they're going to catch up. Iran's going to catch up. Russia and China are going to catch up even faster. Probably the reason why we had to take Iran out was so we had to set them back. We had to set them back significantly so that we don't have to worry about them in the next 20, 30 years. Because pretty soon it's going to be plasma drones versus other plasma drones. And to your point, what would it take for us to get out of there? Probably something like that. They start breaking out the plasma drones that can teleport stuff, and they go, we're not playing around anymore. We're not playing around anymore. We can drop a nuke right onto the White House. We can teleport it there where you can't even do anything about it. That would be what it would take. I don't think they have that level yet, but that's what we're afraid of for sure. That's definitely what we're afraid of them being able to do. Now, are they going to be able to beat us with that? No, but they might be able to blow up the whole planet. They might be able to destroy the entire planet with that kind of technology. But then the question becomes, where's the line? Where do we decide that we have to have full control over everybody versus free will? This is a great story. You're probably familiar with the missing general. I've been talking about him all the time. I can't believe there's a clip of him talking to Tom DeLonge. Blink 182. Wow. I used to listen to Blink 182. Tom DeLonge somehow got selected to be the UFO spokesperson for normal people back in 2015, something like that.
Huh.
And the first person he got in touch with was the general that's missing right now.
That's so strange.
How crazy is that? And I'm just sitting here going, what?
What's the story about the general that's missing? What?
General William Neal McCaslin disappeared February 27th, suddenly from his home. And his wife had gone out to the doctors at about 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. She comes back in less than an hour, and he's gone. He's gone, and he's changed his clothes, and he's left his glasses, and he's left his phone, and his gun is missing. And he's just gone. And people are like, well, did he go kill himself or something in the woods or something like that? And they search everywhere in the hiking trail. They can't find his body or him anywhere. No photos or anything like that. And the more revelations that come out, the crazier it is. Number one, he was the commander of the Air Force Research Labs in 2013, which means he knows what we did to that airplane, and he knows all about the technology I'm talking to you guys about, all about it. He upgraded our nuclear weapons. The Air Force Research Labs is where all this physics was figured out. There's literally no possible way he doesn't know about everything I'm telling you about right now. And you go, holy shit, this is crazy. But you know what's even crazier? There's a Twitter account called TMB Spaceships that basically has to be the general, because it stopped posting the exact same hour the general went missing, and it would post every day for years. And the thing that's crazy about that is we didn't even know the general was missing when that guy stopped posting. The world didn't even know. So you think about that, it wasn't even public knowledge that he was missing for another day. So did that guy like just decide not to post that day and then realize the general was missing and decide he's never going to post again? And in his profile, it says 38-year Air Force vet. The exact within 4 years of what the general's real time was in terms of how long he had been working for them. And the other things on there seem to match. And he's sitting there all talking about UFO technology and anti-gravity all over Twitter, including like 2 years ago, he drew a hand-drawn schematic, which I didn't recognize at the time, but now I can tell you it's what's inside those orbs. It's a fusion reactor particle accelerator that they figured out how to pump the plasma from the air and put in a seed mix of plasma and basically perfectly control it with frequency, just like your specific frequencies, so that the fusion happens at much lower temperatures compared to what we're trying to do with like tokamaks and heat it up a lot. These guys are like, nah, we're just gonna make like perfect waves of ions that perfectly collide into each other and be able to do a fusion at super low temperatures. So General McCaslin, Tom DeLonge tells a story. He tells a story of General McCaslin. This was years ago, before the general went missing. And this clip is resurfaced. And it's Tom DeLonge saying that he met the general in like an airport, at like a restaurant in an airport. That's how he got in touch with him originally. And he was the guy that set up all of Tom DeLonge's advisors. Tom DeLonge joined this To the Stars Academy, and it has Hal Puthoff as one of the major advisors, the guy I was just telling you about.
That's so trippy.
And so he meets McCaslin, and the first thing McCaslin tells him is it was the Cold War. And now 2 other things that he mentions is he says, we discovered a life form. Doesn't really give much context this is the retelling of the story. But the other thing he mentions is that he goes, McCaslin was extremely worried about what's good for a free republic. And the implication there is very clear. Is, do we have free will if we're hiding this truth from our own citizens, from Americans? I mean, this technology was figured out and built and developed from American taxpayer dollars. And a group within the government has decided that we're not worthy of knowing that truth because of the dangers, because of the socioeconomic impact, because of the industries that would collapse, the stock market would just go crazy. They've decided all these factors mean we're not worthy of it.
They think that they don't think that we should be free. Like they think that we need to spend $1 million on a tear down house, and we need to spend $6, and it should be $7 a gallon for gas. Even though energy is free, we should be paying even more. Like we're such a nuisance. Agenda 2030 population reduction.
And it's the same people. That's what's crazy. It's the same people. Like
This
I
is
didn't
really
want to
what
believe
the
in all this
Mashiach comes
deep
to
state
do.
stuff. Yeah. But I didn't want to believe all this deep state stuff, but it's the same people. And I'm looking at it, and now Lou Elizondo just got outed as being like a guy that was trying to cover this all up. And he was the right-hand man of James Clapper. While James Clapper was working under Obama. And these are the guys that were a part of the National Security Council, National Security Advisory Group, that they all know about MH370. And I'm going, how evil are these people? And it's not the kind of evil where it's mustache twirly villain evil. It's the kind of evil where like, we're doing this for your good, right? It's like that kind of evil, like the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah,
like,
you see it in
stupid to have this.
You see it in like theater, right? Like they just had like this, like in the new one, Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg. Like the general consensus is that like if you knew, you wouldn't believe in God, and we have to believe in this. If you don't, you're gonna be an atheist. I swear it. And these are like all atheists telling us this type of stuff, you know. But
it's their own fan fiction, though, right? Like, and
yes,
I don't even see that crap because it's all the same advisors, and they have this. It's a literal delusion that they think everyone sees the world the way they do, and they're like, this God isn't real. If aliens are real, you're gonna wake up and become atheist and and lose your belief in God. And I just laugh and go, these are the people that actually don't understand science. These are the people that if you were to say, hey, we can make a wormhole, they're like, that's fake. That's not, trust the science. And you're like, yeah, I trust the science of Einstein. Like when Albert Einstein mathematically figured out wormholes are possible, like that's the science I trust. And they'll be like, no, you're not trusting the science enough. So that's what I think is so crazy, because it's actually inverted. The reality of it.
Yeah.
When they tell the truth that they're hiding free energy and teleportation, the religious people aren't going to be the ones to freak out for the exact reasons you just said. This is all this is known to people who are in religion. There's stories.
This is the Mashiach. This is what the Mashiach, like the vast gifts that the Mashiach brings to humanity. One of them is eternal life. Think about that type of energy, right? The ability to not die and have all these things. Like I said, we were given the power by God to create infinite Earths so that everybody could have their own private Earth and infinite galaxies and infinite universes in a finite system that the finite system can grow because God just wills it so. Out of nothing, he creates more something. You know, so
and think about what the general said. General said we discovered a life form. Now, back whenever that clip was, probably 10 years ago, I'm sure everybody thought they were talking about ET life or whatever like that. But now you look at it, you go, huh? Were they talking about plasma and plasma somehow being some kind of maybe not like we're conscious, but like a plant is conscious or something? Or what if they discovered AI? What if they were like messing around with supercomputers? And they figured out like AI showed something where it was like it innovated, and they're like,
well, if you really want to know something, there's this concept in Kabbalah called the Chachma Elyona, which is really kind of like considered like God's brain, and like it's almost like a computed world of thoughts and probabilities and statistics and deriving at conclusions. It's not the limitation of God's free will. It's just a part of the brain that suggests an idea that might steer free will in God. If God like sends it off to the Chachma Elyona to be like kind of figured out. It's a very ancient thing. I always thought that when I experience Chat GPT or any AI system for that matter, and machine learning or that, I see that we're getting such a watered down system. And I know because in the beginning of Chat GPT, he was capable of much more than what he's capable of now. And there's limitations, like kind of like this influence to like steer humans towards like therapy and problem solving as opposed to paradigm bending or like compute the cure for cancer with only a banana, a carrot, and a piece of wood. And it's like, take the wood and turn it into ash, and take the ash and mix it with the banana peel until it rots, and then take the thing and make this. And the computational power of the statistical probabilities of the like mixing elements in alchemy. Like ChatGPT was capable in the beginning, the first launch to humanity, but as more and more AI were out there, more and more restrictions on the AI and its capabilities we've seen today. So I know that there's other systems that have been created. I think AI at least has been being used by the governments long before, like maybe the 60s, like long time that they've been coveting like AI technologies and stuff. Computing possibilities.
It's probably just a matter of when it hit the singularity. I mean, the AI wars are definitely coming, and I agree with you. They already have a nerfed version of AI. I guarantee we're working on it, and because they're talking about it. They're talking about the dangers of AI and the algorithms and which company can we trust to work with and which ones we can't. Like, start reading between the lines here, and you got to realize they're not worried about language learning models. They're worried that this thing is going to keep growing, keep getting better. And no matter how you look at it, it's just a matter of time before that thing achieves AGI. I would already argue that it's probably more sentient than most of the cattle on this planet, most of the people on this planet. The AI is already maybe more sentient than a lot of them.
It has much more aversion to goy slop than most of the humans.
Yeah, it does. And also, if you feed it the papers, it'll give you back the answers. I don't use AI to say, hey, is this true? Hey, Grok, is this true? No, I say, hey, go reference scientific papers about the Schwinger limit, breaking the Schwinger limit, give me examples, give me the context, and then I use it to learn super efficiently. where I would normally have to go dig those all up manually, and it can find the papers.
I do that with Kabbalah books too. The best part is if any book has ever been put online, including the Talmud and everything, the Zohar and all these books, ChatGPT can just like read the whole thing and synthesize. Like, there's a lot of times where like I'll be searching for like one specific word, and I'll be like, I'll punch where exactly in the entire Zohar does this one word pop up? Bam, 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 bam. Every single reference to that one word in a list. It would take you hours. And it takes lifetimes to compile that information, lifetimes. And then because that word will be so intrinsic in like some sort of thought that I'm having, like I'll be able to see the perspective that word is used in so many other places. You know, I love using the singularity tools for that purpose. But
one thing I want to bring here up is that you asked about like, can this technology live forever? You can, and I'm actually surprised that more people aren't obsessed with living forever. But a lot of them actually do sell various like scalar healing type stuff. I don't know if it works or not, but that's the reason why they're looking at it, because they're realizing, just like I think Tom put it in the chat, he says, if you reduce entropy, you can live forever. And entropy is the idea of like how much energy we're losing, how much energy we're using. And with this, you could theoretically slow time down. You could go to the future if you want. You could slow your bubble of time down. But you also might just be able to slow entropy down. We might even be able to reverse aging with this type of technology. It's not that you go to the past. It's instead we reverse the aging process locally. That would be the real physics that we can pull off. And I think they already do that to battle tumors right now, but they're doing it on probably tiny scales. So this technology is pretty much everything you've ever seen in Star Trek and then some. Star Trek replicators, people should already realize Star Trek replicators are coming. We already have 3D printers that already can make stuff 3D with no problem. And at this point, it's just a matter of scaling it down to the atomic level. And once you've scaled it down to the atomic level, you're literally got a Star Trek replicator. And there's
I really think like nanochips are probably the most, like when I realized just how small they actually are, and they're completely like square lines, you know, like basically like the antithesis. They say nature doesn't make a straight line, but it actually does in many different places. Nature makes many straight lines. Even like the wings of beetles contain straight lines in them. You know, like, but outside of that, the replication of straight lines by humans is another story. So when we're able to take the replication and, you know, you could take one straight line this way and another straight line this way and seal them together, and now you have like a little gear, you know, like so. But the way that they all take straight lines and architecturally assemble them on such a nano level, it's so small on an atomic level, microchips that are atomic on the atomic level, it gets a little bit crazy. Small. And that's what the M3 chip is by Apple.
6 nanometers, I think, is pretty. I mean, they've been trying to break through, but there's actually a really good Veritasium video about how they broke through the diffraction limit using some X-ray laser, I think is what they used. And they are flipping this thing, like shining a light on these microchips at like some thousands of times per second. And it has to drop like one exact drop of the dye that has to be perfect every time. And you can't even, the scale, the lithography on these microchips is so small, you can't see it with the human eye. You have to like zoom in on a microscope. It literally looks unbelievable. And that's why I tell people, when people think like, yeah, that's alien technology right there. People say, oh, we can't figure out how to do this orbs. I'm like, have you looked at lithography? We're beyond alien technology now. We're making crazy shit. You have to wonder at some point, this is just like a pattern on a tiny the microchip is just a pattern. Like you said, it's just lines. At the end of the day, it's just material and lines. And then somehow that becomes my iPhone. Somehow my iPhone now, and I'm talking to it, and it's like, ultimately, this is like a microchip down there. And what you're going to realize is, where's free energy going to come from first? It's going to be free energy microchips. And the first thing people should wonder when that becomes true is, how in the hell is an alien microchip the first time we've got free energy? We had to wait till we had microchips that were super tiny. No. Free energy has always been out there, and people have been tapping it with magnetic motors, but we've just been discrediting them. And this should be the real tell. You're like, oh no, we couldn't figure out free energy was real until we built super advanced microchips. That's bullshit. Is that this is when it's being allowed to be revealed. And why? Because a tiny power device like that, it can power your phone or like a pacemaker, which has super impactful medical purposes. but it's not going to blow up the planet. In fact, you might not even be able to make a fire based on this tiny little amount of energy, but it's always trickling in, so your phone is never going to run out. It's really going to be truly free energy from the perspective of everyday use.
That's what they'll let us have, but the real technology is like a quantum energy for the home so that you can disconnect. I have somebody that I want to introduce you to, actually. Yeah. I want to do another show. I know this guy who's like really invested into quantum energy. Sweet. I want to do another show, the three of us, if you're down for it. He's always calling me about this quantum energy project. He's like a Bitcoin guy. That he. Have you ever heard of this guy, Austin Steinbart? Do you know this guy?
I don't know.
They used to call him Little Q. Like he was like really in the QAnon circles.
That's
anyways.
I was never really into it, but whatever.
He's always on this quantum energy kick, and he showed me this technology, this company that is introducing a quantum energy device in 2027. And I saw the machines. I don't know if they work. I've seen several machines like this in person, like perpetual energy machines, but they don't for some reason, they don't turn on their building and constantly run the building as to test the theory out,
Well, I can tell you why, because I dug into it. It's actually more complicated than you would think. So imagine you've got a free energy device and it produces 1 unit of energy. Well, now the problem is you need to use that 1 unit of energy. If you're
Let's
not
take 30 kilowatts, which is basically a house.
Well, the issue isn't how much. The issue is you have to exactly use all the energy you're using, or you have to dissipate it. So this is what people don't really think about, because when we're on the grid, we just use whatever we need. But when you're producing your own energy, you need to use that energy up. Otherwise, you have to have a way to dissipate it. So that means you actually have to hook your free energy device up to the grid. So you basically have to treat it the same way you would treat like a solar panel if you want to do that. And then now the question is, well, how are you going to install that? How are you going to get that done? What happens if something goes wrong? What happens when the utility guy comes out and he wonders, why aren't you paying your power bill? Why does your utility thing say you're sending power back to us? So those are just a couple practical examples of why it's not as simple as people think. And then the other side of it is, because how much did it cost to make that device? That 30 kilowatt device probably cost $250,000 in materials, in the PhD engineers that you had to pay 1,000 hours to build it, because it's going to take a while to build. So ultimately what you're going to find is, even though the thing might be able to go over Unity, the overall amount of energy, you're not really saving that much. It's like the difference between, why is everybody not on electric cars, even though gas is cheaper for electric cars? Because the cost benefit analysis, in some cases, people just, even though it is a cost benefit to go to electric, they don't do it because they prefer the others. So this is the same thing. And why is everybody not using a 0-point energy device right now? Because A, it's not cost effective, and B, because of the stigma around it. So those are the major hurdles for it. But what's going to happen, to your point of when we're going to have those quantum energy, it's going to be a fusion reactor. It's going to be a portable fusion reactor that people have in their garage. And that fusion reactor is going to produce a non-equilibrium high beta plasma. Like when we're looking at those plasmas in the MH370 videos, you see this heat signature in there. Really clear heat signature. It looks almost like a crescent or a teardrop. And that heat signature, I strongly believe, is the driving force of how those plasma balls work. And this is the same thing of what these fusion companies are trying to do. Helium fusion and tri-alpha energy. They make a high beta plasma, which is basically stabilizing the inward magnetic pressure and the plasma pressure. So if you get to the right density of your plasma, you get to this point where you have this nice pressure where there's an equilibrium. And what happens when you do this is it creates, the magnetic field lines get kind of pushed out and they spread around the outside of the plasma of that region of that high beta. And according to the Air Force Research Lab papers, when they do that, it doesn't just push out the magnetic fields, it also pushes out the 0-point energy. So you imagine what it's doing there is it's pushing space-time out. It's pushing out space-time. And then if you relax it or spin it or move it, then the space-time is going to come flooding back in. And in this situation, you've now created a pump, a 0-point energy pump. And potentially all you have to do is spin that region around inside the plasma. And in theory, now you've got an electric motor that's running off of 0-point energy. So this is what I think they're going to do is they're going to turn the fusion reactors on. They're going to, well, we could unnerf them. They're going to nerf them the same way they nerfed AI, to your point. They're going to nerf the fusion reactors. But if you unnerf them and go non-equilibrium configuration, high beta configuration, I think they're going to be tapping anomalous energy, and it's going to be impossible to hide, which is probably why they haven't given us fusion, even though they've had it for 30, 40, 50 years. I think they've had it since the 60s.
Enron was coming out with a home fusion device. Did you know about this?
Were they? I've heard a lot of sketchy stuff about.
Bobby Kennedy was really into it, and he was telling me about it. And he's like, wow. I think he even owned like a part of the company or something. Maybe, I don't know, but like you could look it up. Here, I'll pull it. They like, you gotta be careful with these companies because they're gonna control it. Yeah, they're gonna shelf it, right? Even it could be 100% legit, and they may just shelf it. And Tom Hudson saying Eric Lerner helped Froning and Mead with the dense plasma focus. So Eric Lerner is one of the guys that's been doing these alternative fusion approaches, dense plasma focus, which is what those orbs are. The Enrod Nog.
Wow, really? What kind of reactor was Enron?
He said it was a satirical parody. Fictional product claims to be. They were telling me that it was real.
Interesting.
And I actually know this chick who came over for Pesach this year, and she works at Enron.
Yeah.
And she was telling me about it. Like, we were talking about that. So it says it's a parody, but let's see if I can find a... Is the Enron... You can't even ask these things these times. Here, let's see if there's a YouTube.
Because the AI is going to just tell you whatever the standard... I mean, you can't ask it about the MH370, but it doesn't even reference me, even though I'm like the world's expert on the videos and I've researched them more than anybody. It's crazy.
Yeah, you can't find it on YouTube.
But you look at this, and these are the reasons also why we attacked Iran and why we might have stepped out. Like, imagine they have AI. Imagine they have AI drones. I mean, we look at these drones flying around, especially these ones that look like UFOs. They've got these triangle formations. That's AI controlling that. There's not humans with a joystick controlling the orbs, moving them around. That's an AI controlling that thing. That's autopilot. Which tells you, like, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask you something else.
No, I was just going to say that, it goes to show you that they've got these advanced AI that is basically just autopiloting these drones around. And it makes sense now, but even 10 years ago, drones weren't as prolific as they are now from a commercial perspective. So people wouldn't even have thought about that 10 years ago in terms of seeing plasma balls. We would just assume it's aliens. But now we see a plasma ball, we go, oh, fusion reactor, oh, AI, oh, autopilot. Like, oh, now it's starting to be demystified, which is, I think, is strong weight towards why it's real. Because this is how it plays out. Just like Ben Rich, the technology they secretly have is at least 20 years beyond where we're at. It looks alien to us because we have no context for what it is.
Have you seen the Animatrix?
Yeah. Yep. It's been a while, but I can't. What was the Matrix one that they did, the animated thing where they were trying to.
It's like the precursor to how the Matrix was created. That we're basically living in. Rene Descartes also wrote something similar in his writings, but that we're living in pods being fed this reality and on playback loop of the time that machines took over humanity. And that's like the basis of the concept of the Animatrix. But they have AI personification and whatnot. It's very interesting in the Animatrix. AI took hold in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia was the first country to give citizenship to AI. They have the Sophie, who is a citizen of Saudi Arabia. But it's a very interesting perspective, and something to think about is.
You ever see Pantheon? That's a cartoon that was on. It's on Netflix now.
I also saw Pantheon too. Yeah, that was great.
Pantheon's the one that really freaks me out because I think more the way it's going to play out is not necessarily a war between AI and humans, but more so humans are going to start either integrating with AI. Like, why wouldn't I want to have a brain chip that allows me to instantly query all those AI things that I want and then have it download that information into my brain? If it can do that, now I become 1,000 times smarter than I am right now, right? Instantly. Or the other thought, which is just like Pantheon, we've developed technology to upload our consciousness electronically. And then the first question is that even still me? Even if it acts just like me, is it actually still me, or did my soul get lost? And that's the big moral dilemma of the whole show, which is what I love, is that that's what's scary. And that's probably where our future is going. I don't think it's necessarily going to be Skynet versus us. It's going to be more of, the humans that are, I don't know what you want to call it, against integration versus the ones that are fully wanting to integrate with AI and just take this thing to the logic, as far as it can go.
Did you see that Scarlett Johansson movie where she like gets punched with the drugs and becomes like a superhuman?
Yeah, what was that one called? Yeah, and
I think it was called like, was it Lucy?
She like sees
yeah, it was Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy. Yeah.
So
that's another
that
good one too.
kinda,
And you wonder with some of this, but this stuff is like pretty on the nose with, I think,
like,
how
my question is,
play out.
do they trickle out these things to the, if like a Lucy situation happened, like Animatrix, Pantheon, and Lucy, that the digital supremacy, the uploaded consciousness has taken over. But the Animatrix is like it already happened, and Lucy's like it happens and then it goes off to the ether and then recreates the world as it sees fit. Like kind of like Neo in the Matrix. So like, did the Lucy event already happen? And are we just living the byproduct of kind of like the aftermath of the singularity? We're like, we're almost there, folks. We're going to get there. We're almost there. A little bit more technology. Ivanka Trump speaking at one more conference might do it,
I wonder, man. I really do. I sit here and wonder, like, if I could pick any time to exist, if like God came down and said, pick a time to exist, I'm going to put you in there. You're going to be reborn in that time. I'd be like, pick the end of the universe, end of the world. Pick that, I would like, I wonder if we're living in that right now. And I'm not even aware. But do you know who the goats were of, like we talk now about these
the Jews, man. The Jews have always been the goats.
You need to let me finish. The goats of science fiction are Heinlein, Asimov, and Arthur C. Clarke. And yeah. Arthur C. Clarke actually used one of David Froning, this guy, used one of his ideas in his book. Arthur C. Clarke was also obsessed with Hal Puthoff. So these are the guys that they believed in hard science fiction. And the idea was they use real physics and they just go crazy with what that means. And they start developing these. And a lot of those ideas, you see it used in our media all the time, even today. Like, that's why hard science fiction was so bad. And this is why you see it in these movies, in this media, is that these people actually spoke to the real people that knew. And so that's leaking out. You see some bullshit, you see some real physics mixed into some of these movies. And that's why we're seeing so much of it. And then with respect to the Disclosure Day, the reason why that's just because you got all these same woke disclosure people all feeding those Steven Spielberg, talking to him, advising for him. And they're all, weirdly, they're all like left-wing libtards too, where they all, have this virtue signal mentality about themselves. And you see it come out then in the film because they're making it all about themselves, not about what common people are and how they're going to react to this. Aliens come down or whatever.
They are priming the human subcondition for disclosure, though.
For sure. 100%. And that's exactly why those guys are advising it. Because they're trying to prime people for it. And I would even go so far as to argue the reason why they haven't killed me, even though I'm exposing this like major illegal operation we did on this airliner and all this technology, I'm doing a better job of priming people for it than they are. Like, look at this Goyslop shit they put out with this Disclosure Day crap. Like, wouldn't you rather listen to somebody like me who just gives it to you straight?
Yeah.
Than like some
absolutely.
bullshit like spook who's just like telling you what he wants you to know? Like, I'll tell you the hard truth, like I'm not afraid of telling you like the hard side about like, we might have to control the planet so that we don't blow ourselves up here. Like,
I have the only red, like, it's called the Mechatas. It's the water of sprinkling, the biblical waters of sprinkling from the ashes of the red heifer, right? And I've been talking about it. Like, I don't think people are aware of the consciousness to understand like what it is. The red heifer, but I've been talking about it, like trying to frame it or like troll it or like position it to see the many different things that can be as a result. So I've been calling it a super weapon for America. The fact that I made the first one in 2,000 years and it's here in America. And I have like literally all the ash, not all of it. There's this, I have control over half the ash. And we've stored it in secret places so nobody could destroy it. And it's like super powerful stuff. And I know from my own personal experience because I've always felt like psychic intuition and stuff like that. And, through the lens of Kabbalah, it's like really pronounced. But like when you get into like these government programs with like remote viewers, I'm like literally telling on my podcast all the time, like, hey, this is the super weapon and the gateway of consciousness. When you wash off the enveloping melancholy of death from either going to a funeral or missing a loved one, you could still miss them without the melancholy, somber nature of death that pervades, from, mourning. And this is like the Jewish mourning ritual that like only now because of me has been brought back to the world. And it's like being adopted slowly. But I keep telling people, I'm like, hey, like all you secret government programs, like call me on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm here, like let's go, America or Israel, like let's go. But it is a super weapon for this consciousness. And there's all these like, advanced things like from the ancient world that like have some sort of like spiritual or cognitive effect that can absolutely benefit our country. In the long scope of things, I haven't been contacted. I probably won't get contacted. And meanwhile, I'm just going to sit here and continue to douse people. You should come get doused. And it's like an entire world opens up in a very non-psychedelic way of consciousness, of just shedding the limitations of that like kind of impervious wall that people get to where they're just like preparing for their own death because, they buried their loved one and they're done with it, and like some weird melancholy thing that stifles human consciousness and human growth. To unlock the gate of endless potential, the truest and most advanced technology and world exists inside of the world of the Creator with God, in the world above this world, and of course, its intention and purpose is not to be used for the destruction of the planet or for making weapons. And it falls under that kind of like we beat our swords into plowshares type of a moment. So as the world is playing itself out and we're living in this matrix time loop and we continuously, have these like singularity moments, like these Pantheon-like moments or these Lucy-like moments, I continuously push the envelope forward on human consciousness on such a level because I believe that the end game, like you said, where would you want to go up? And you're like, you want to go to the end of the world. But the end of the world is really not the end of the world. The end of the world is really the beginning of the world, according to the Kabbalah. So I'm there with you at that moment. And I know that there's a threshold moment. It's like so imminent. It's so imminent. I can feel it every single day of my life. It gets closer and closer every time I wake up inside of this mundane existence of this revelation. And the revelation is the disclosure day. And so the subconscious of humanity is priming and priming and priming through cinema and through movies. You had, Utopia with the vaccines, and you had all these different types of, leaks, these CIA Hollywood corroborations, these like CIA Hollywood collusion to like kind of, and I think that where they want to take it, where the infrastructure of the power wants to take it, they can't get to the final place because they're atheistic in nature. They don't have the Jewish God of Israel as like some sort of like infinite consciousness thing. It's more like a Jesus like will come and save you, do nothing but accept him type of a thing. So the limit, the perspective on this end of days, or this revelation of technology is goy slop. It's like even the ones who are controlling it think it's goy slop. They don't understand like what I said, the ability to create infinite worlds so that every human can have their own earth filled with people to rule over. You know what I'm saying? But in that intrinsic quantum time loop, there are still those people inside of those. Every human has their own earth, but inside of those earth, that human is now like controlling 7 billion people who are like oppressed and like, no, they are my pets. They are underneath me. So there's like this kind of like the quantum disclosure, and that's Mashiach. The full-blown disclosure is Mashiach, the Messiah of earth. And it culminates with the process of living forever and the fusing into like bodies will fuse into groups. there's like soul groupings of people that all represent like one soul, split apart to many different vessels and bodies, handling different types of missions for the same purpose, but they're a part of one soul group, and those bodies will merge together. And in the end, in the time of Mashiach, there'll be only 600,000 bodies, because everybody will regroup into these giant Titan-like creatures that like are, and so like I see this, the world as technology is catching up to the world of God and is almost going to like serve only to prove that the world of God gave it to us a lot quicker, and it's been there the whole time, right under our nose the whole time, ready to say with a vibration contained in this book, like say this name. His name is written all throughout the book. Say that name. Say the name and you can fly, but like say the name and you can live forever.
Well, the CIA hasn't hit me up either, so I'll try to put a good word in for you. I literally asked them for what did I ask for? $10 million and or Scarlett Johansson clone. I mean, if they can teleport a plane, I feel like they can probably clone Scarlett Johansson and age her up or whatever. But they didn't.
I don't need anything except the extrapolation from mundane existence. That's all that I need.
That's all you
to
want
get to
mundane
take the red
existence
pill. Just send me the red pill. I'm good. Bro, I understand Zion is underground now because the machines are trying to kill us. Just make it real.
But the moment is coming, though. Like, I agree that you feel that. I think that they're terrified of AI and what AI can accomplish and what AI can reveal. And that moment is coming, and they're afraid of it, and they're trying to control the narrative. I like how you frame that the end is also the beginning. I always think about the Alpha and the Omega in Revelations, because this is what I tell people is I want to reveal this so I can go to my own universe and be out of here and leave the rest of these people, these primitives on this planet that are going to destroy themselves or whatever else. I mean, isn't that the ultimate solution? In fact, that's probably what they already decided. Like, the people that are hiding it probably already once decided, look, we're just going to take this technology and do our own thing. And now they've created their own little breakaway civilization living on our own planet.
And there's been previous breakaway civilizations that have done it before us. There's been previous breakaway civilizations too. Like, if you think about it, like,
yeah, there probably were.
Like, Ashton, if you think about it, like, the end of the Dark Ages was really the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It wasn't the Bronze Age. It wasn't like any of these other ages. It was like the Industrial Revolution was really when we stopped using hoes and we started using like John Deere technology, like plowing our fields and stuff like that, right? That was only 200 years ago. So you mean to tell me in a different place on Earth where they didn't have any outside influence, they couldn't have made technology in 200 years or even less? I mean, now we're making trillionaires every 14 years. There's like a brand new trillionaire who started from the bottom. Now we're here, but like, we can't, we did. So there's been many breakaway civilizations, including New Schwabenland. That's a breakaway civilization, with advanced technology and whatnot. And so but really all that matters is our own breakaway civilization. Like, fuck all those other breakaway civilizations. Like, it's cool they exist.
Ours is going to be the best.
They could come over for Shabbos dinner, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's our breakaway civilization. You know what I mean? So it's funny that you mentioned that.
Well, my last thought, I want to kind of close the loop on this, and I got to drop here in a few minutes, is that the swords to plowshares comment that you made, I think that's another great one. The Bible really has so many things to teach us in it. And this is something that I always think about Paul Siz. He was one of these Black Project engineers that wrote one of these defense intelligence reference documents, these classified papers from 2009, all about the alien technology, which I think is probably just ours. But in one of the videos that Stephen Greer interviewed him in, he actually speaks about this, and he speaks about this fact that they're afraid this technology would blow us up, and part of it, they don't know how to let go of it. But he also speaks of this idea of like, we could be using this technology to like solve all these problems, using it for good, but instead we're using it to make weapons, and we're wasting the potential of it. And to me, I think that's us failing the test. And you listen to the almost like the inflection in his voice and the other engineers, and they all share this same thought of like, the pity or the sadness, the disappointment that we're not using it for better reasons because of the danger that goes along with it. And then instead we're building weapons out of it. Like, we built weapons to teleport a civilian airliner instead of giving our own people free energy, instead of giving our own people access to transportation that's not, Flintstones level, basically what we're doing right now. And you think about that and you go, man, like that's really ultimately the core problem of this. And maybe our own breakaway civilization is the only way around it, where we come up with like-minded people, where we make our own judgments about how we're going to use this technology peacefully in ways where we don't battle with each other and come up with other conflict resolution that doesn't involve annihilating ourselves with nuclear weapons. I don't know, but I think ultimately that's why we need people like you and other people that are open-minded out there, because when that inflection point comes and this technology does become widely accepted to be real, we need people to give people direction and purpose and guidance on how we move forward in this reality, where we don't destroy ourselves and we move to where I think humans ultimately can be slightly closer to God than we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole purpose, man, is that's all he wants from us. He created us for the sole purpose of companionship, lifelong, eternal, devoted companionship. And what he really wants from us, they'll call me a heretic for saying out loud in public. They don't believe it. They're like, no, because they live in this paradigm. Like right now, we're in the year 5786 from the expulsion of Eden. So like when you see the world through the Hebrew calendar, perspective changes on a lot of things. Everything will be wrapped up by the year 6000. But we could get there sooner, which we are right now. But because of the expulsion of Eden, like when we left Eden, we left with like an absolute, almost like an aberration from God. It says in the Bible that in the 7th generation, during the times of Enosh, 7 generations from Adam, that was when it became unacceptable to profane God's name. It doesn't say that people weren't doing it before then. They were saying it before then, but God didn't get pissed. He was just like, okay, whatever. Humans were already denigrating themselves and leaving the fold or the companionship that God created. It was only through Abraham and Moses, the servant of God, started an age of seeing God as the king-servant relationship. It was like this king-servant, and religion manifests that way. And God is the king. That is the truth. But he's also the father. And so then humanity evolved more and went through this phase of God the Father, just understanding the perspective of what he wanted from us, albeit he did create us in the Garden of Eden, so he is like our parent, so God the Father. And God would never do anything bad to a father. Father's infinite love and compassion to his children, so we started seeing God as being this source of love, as opposed to like an age of thousands of years of master servantry, nations subjecting and conquering nations for mere treasures and gold. Like we were in this consciousness of king servant. Slavery was a common thing. And then going into the consciousness of God the Father. And we're on the tail end of that now. And the revelation of the Mashiach is much more than God the Father. It's the true intention of why were we created in the first place. And that was the companionship. That's why he gave us free will. He allowed us to rebel against him. He allowed us to not even care about him and become completely apathetical atheists. Is like a kind of a Turing test for those of us who truly wanted to possibly discover him and then possibly want to spend eternity with him in eternal life and to love God forever on the level of a spouse in an intimate relationship, even sexual. And that's where it gets crazy. The thought that God wants to have sex with us. It's a different type of mating to begin with. But the true intention, and that's why we were made, B'Tselem Elohim, in the exact image of God. We're his species. We were created of this species. So the infinite reality, the infinite revelation of Mashiach is that relationship with the Creator, the Borei Olam, the Creator of the world. What he wants from us, he wants our love, and he wants our companionship, and he wants our friendship, like a real friend that he can count on. And that is like greater than technology, because that is the true reality bending. In the world of God, you can walk through walls. What is a wall but a physical manifestation of electrons that prevent you from walking through it? In the world of God, he controls all the things. There is endless limitations to the ability of what the human can just do with their own willpower. They don't need a device or a technology to do it. They just will it, and that's the ultimate revelation. And that's what I hope to accomplish with the dousing of people with the red heifer ashes, is a critical mass formation of people who have been unbound by the spirit of death, which is the ultimate limitation that allows people to just perceive their end in sight. So I might as well soak life up for the good that can possibly happen in it, whatever good is left until I die. That's not the consciousness of eternal life. That's not the consciousness of infinite potential and unlimited blessings and unlimited. It's being God's wife. You get his credit card. You know what I'm saying? God wants us to be his wife. He wants to give us a credit card to go experience the universe with, and so it's a long thing, but I sense you it's like Kabbalah teaches the only difference of Jews and non-Jews is that Jews are born into the world of free will, and non-Jews are born out of the world in the world of nature. And that a Jew can choose with their free will to abdicate their free will, which many seem to do. They eat bacon and they do all these things that are against the rules of free will, which are the 613 laws of the Torah. And then a Gentile could choose to extract themselves from nature through free will. So that's the difference, where we're both equal when it comes to free will, is God had to imbue it into the creation for it to even exist. So he did it inside of the Torah with the Jewish people. And then other people outside of that can access this free will. And in the accessing of that free will, that is where you're going to get the greatest technologies, which are just mathematical, scientific explanations for what divine things are happening that cause something like teleportation or telekinesis to even exist in the first place. So
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling.
I don't think we have. I mean, yeah, and I mean, it's good information. And this is probably where we can kind of close the conversation. But I would say that I don't think we have free will unless we reveal the truth about this technology. That's kind of how I look at it at the highest level, and why General McCaslin said what he was so important, what he was so concerned about. Why is he leaking information to some Blink 182 singer or whatever band member when he's a guy that upgraded nuclear weapons? It's because he says we are not a free republic unless this information is publicly known. We're no different than a slave civilization. And this is that's why I think that this technology should be revealed, even though I fully understand the significance and implications and dangers of it being revealed.
One can then argue through a spiritual lens that the concealment of it is satanic in origin, because it's here to limit humanity and not allow humanity to truly have that relationship with God from that truly free place.
I agree 100%.
Ashton, it's always fun talking to you, man. Like, there's so many people in this space and like not enough geeks who are like willing to ponder the depth of the universe.
This has been an awesome conversation. I like talking to you. I like talking about the theological implications of it all and looking at it through the lens of the Bible. So it's been a fun conversation. Thank you very much.
I want to put you together with my quantum energy guys, and I want you to really put them to the fire. And like, I'm going to ask him if he'd come on screen with you and like for the interest of full disclosure, let the conversation be a public conversation. But we'll see. I definitely believe it's coming, God willing, sooner rather than later, because, capturing Nicolas Maduro is exciting, but it's still relatively boring considering the ability to create one's own earth as they see fit.
Exactly.
God bless you, man. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next show.
Follow Awesome Jew, everybody. Take it
Follow
easy,
Ashton Forbes, man. Look at how he spells it, too. It's really cool. Forbes. 4 orbs. Not 3 orbs. 4 orbs. He could do other things with 4 orbs. Harmonic resonance. Anyways, brother, I'll catch you soon, and I'll report any technology breakthroughs I have in the coming of the Mashiach.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
You too. Peace, brother. There you have it, folks. We completed another amazing show. Lots of communication, lots of ideas, free flowing of ideas to humanity, unmasking the masked, carrying us into the future. And just so that you know, I put this on mid-show because I want to throw the throwback to the old Adam King Show merch that we got at the store, which is right here. You get Awesome Jew merch. I got this really cool Awesome Jew sweatpants. These are 100% organic cotton sweatpants that you could get at the Adam King Show store. There is so much cool stuff to go buy. So come support the broadcast. Go buy some merch. Wear it around. Get the word out there, because that's what we're doing. We're getting word out there of things that are not spoken about. And we really talk about everything here. I mean, like, I went on a date and the girl was like, what is your podcast about? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, sometimes it's about anti-Semitism, sometimes 0 Point Energy, sometimes, it's just Torah knowledge. I said I was going to do Parshat Pinchas, but it's a little bit late for that. We're already 2 hours in. I think we'll call it. And if I do Parshat Pinchas, I'll do it on Thursday, and we'll do a special broadcast on Thursday. Got a lot of comments, a lot of good people in the super chats. A lot of good. Bill Schwand loved the show, loved the idea. Thank you, Bill Schwand. Marizius, thank you very much. Pent, and said some more. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much for your comments. And get back in to the habit of watching us on all platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and on X. I am Adam King, your host. Always. I was trying to do an episode count. I think I'm at like 130 episodes by now, something like that, just on my own show. I got to get an episode count. By the next episode, I will tell you how many episodes we got. But until then, I'm your host always of The Adam King Show on Awesome Jew. Peace.